Okay, so let's start off with the bell ringer for today. I need to turn on the presentation, I guess. That would help. All right, so describe the stages of sleep that you read about yesterday in class. Then your response, detail the differences between each stage. All right, so there were, I believe the book said 4, right? Most people recognize it as 3 stages, and then they recognize NREM. Okay, NREM sleep. But we'll talk about the 4 stages as well, mostly just focusing on the 3. So let you guys work on that for a bit, and we'll talk it over. Give you another minute to finish up here. These are nice, Campbell, these pens. These stylus. Thanks a lot. That's awesome. Okay, so let's start off with REM sleep. What does REM sleep, REM sleep mean? What does that mean? Luker, what does that mean? Rapid eye movement. Good job. Good job. And they describe the wave, the amplitude, the frequency like what? What do they relate it to? What stage of sleep? Rapid eye movement. What's that? The first one. Yeah, good job. This first one. So we have high frequency. Okay, we have low amplitude. High frequency means we have a lot of waves in a given point. Okay, and low amplitude means that they're not really. It's not like we're in a deep sleep. We're more into I wouldn't say a restless sleep, but there's more, cognitive movements going on and experience. So when you look at an EEG, we talked about the EEG scans before, how it almost looks like a seismograph. That's kind of how we see the stages of sleep and understand it. And with REM sleep, rapid eye movement, that is almost the same as stage one. And it's interesting because where most of our dreams, what stages most of our dreams occur in? You guys remember? What stage does most of our dreams occur in or happen in? Campbell, do you remember?
REM.
Yeah, in the REM sleep, right? Even though our frequency is really high, like the initial first stage of when we start sleeping, right? It's interesting how that kind of works. And like I said, it's a high frequency. There's a lot of waves in a given point. And there's low amplitude. It's not like we're in a deep sleep. It's more just when we are almost awakening a bit. Okay. All right. So let's start off with NREM1. What does NREM stand for? Pretty self-explanatory. Campbell, what does it stand for? Non-rapid eye movement. Good job. Good job. And that stage one, how do they describe stage one? Do you remember?
I have low pulse, like your muscles start to relax, and just drifting away.
Yeah, good job. So like right when you're first initially starting to fall asleep, and I'll talk a little bit more about some examples of NREM1, but we have high frequency, low amplitude, and it's just like when we're first calming down, our blood pressure slows, we are kind of going into a relaxed state. Our muscles aren't moving or twitching whatsoever. In rapid eye movement, we see a lot of movements. We see a lot of twitching. We see a lot of eye movement, obviously. I hate when people fall asleep with their eyes open. Creeps me out. You ever go to sleep over and people fall asleep with their eyes open? No? My brother does. It's weird. Freaks me out. All right, what else do we have here? Stage two. What's involved with stage two? Hannah, what's involved with stage two?
It's like eyes and very like drops.
Okay.
Your muscles relax. Slowly, like you're slowly breathing, and then like it becomes less visible, like everything around you. Not as aware of your surroundings when you're in your state.
All right, good. So we're going into a deeper sleep. Our blood pressure, our heart rate slows, and sleep spindles occur, which I'll talk more about today. And we see the frequencies being lowered and the amplitudes being higher. Okay, so as we're moving into a deeper sleep, and then I'm just going to talk about stage three. I know the book talks about stage four, but stage three is most people recognize it as the final stage, but there is a stage four that your book talks about, and that is a little bit more of a deeper sleep, okay, where we really have no movements at all, right? Our body doesn't move, and our heart rate and our blood pressure slows even more, and it's almost delta waves, what they call it as the amplitude is raised really high, and our frequency of the wave is a lot lower, okay, a lot lower. And this is our deepest sleep. And we kind of travel through those stages intermittently throughout the night, throughout our sleep. And we kind of reach through 1, 2, and 3, and even sometimes 4 in certain occasions throughout our sleep. All right, so I'm going to go a little bit more detail about that today and some examples. And I'm going to move on tomorrow with if we don't get enough sleep, what happens then? What happens then? All right, so beta waves, awake, alert, and active. Okay, so beta waves is almost like we are in our awake state. Okay, this is almost kind of like where we are at REM sleep, stage one. We are awake. We have high frequencies. As we can see, there's a lot of waves occurring in a short given time. And with that being said, we have the amplitude very low. Okay, you guys remember talking about amplitude and frequency? You guys good with that? Or do I need to review that again? Yeah? Who can remember? Good with that? Okay. All right. Alpha waves, slow waves, relaxed and awake. Okay. As you can see, the alpha, waking alpha waves, there's a high frequency there yet, showing that we still have a lot of cognitive experiences going on at that moment. And with our amplitude, it's short and still. Okay. We don't see the really high jutting waves that we do with a delta wave in our different stages of sleep as we're lowering to stage 3. And then finally, delta waves are large, slow waves of deep sleep. Okay, and stage 3, and I know your book talks about stage 4. Okay, and the amplitude is very, very high. Okay, as you can see, these waves are really overarching. Okay, to a high peak, to a high point. Let's say the equilibrium's right along through the middle. The delta waves really shows how high that juts, and just explains how we're going through a deeper sleep. And the frequency is a lot lower. We don't see as many waves occurring in a given amount of time. Okay, like we do in waking beta or waking alpha. There's so many waves occurring during that given time, showing that we are awake and we have a lot of, I guess, say, cognition, consciousness going on, and brain activity occurring. But as we move down to the different stages, stage 3, into a deeper sleep, the frequency is lower and the amplitude rises. You guys good with that? Okay. So real quick, stage NREM1, so non-rapid eye movement. So with non-rapid eye movement, we're entering into stage 1, obviously, and this is where we are really just to the point where we're first falling asleep. The frequencies are high, like I mentioned, okay, like we were awake here in this portion. As the frequencies are high and we're moving into that stage 1 of sleep, the frequencies are still high, the amplitude's lower, okay, and that means we are entering that first stage of sleep. And many people say they, obviously can't really remember too much of, of dreaming when they first fall asleep, and let's say they awaken right away. Okay, they might have some, obviously, recollection of dreaming in an unconscious state, but not too much, right? And I kind of give the example of, like, right when you're falling asleep, you're easily awakened, right? It's almost like you're drifting off or dozing off. I'm sure we have all examples of that. Okay, where we're just kind of maybe sitting in class, listening to a lecture, and all of a sudden we wake up. It's like, oh, how much did I miss? Did I miss 5 minutes? Did I miss 10 minutes? When all reality, it was maybe just a couple seconds. I'm sure we have all examples of that. A good one I like to give is my dad falling asleep when he's watching TV. It's like, hey, I'm going to go over and grab the remote, but he wakes up. He's like, hey, I was awake the whole time. I just dozed off for a second. Oh, okay. All right. Whatever. Sounds good. Sounds good. All right. So that's NREM1. So again, non-rapid eye movement, stage 1. We have high frequencies. As we see the waves, there's many waves occurring in a given point, and the amplitude's pretty low. They're not high off that equilibrium. And it's just like we're dozing off. Just only for a couple seconds, we might doze off into a sleep state. All right, stage 2, NREM2, a little bit more intense with our waves, their frequency as it's becoming lower. Frequencies are actually becoming lower than stage 1, and when we're involved, even in REM sleep, in our awake state. Amplitudes jut a little bit higher, and that's what they call sleep spindles. All right, sleep spindles are really just a burst of amplitude, a burst of wavelength. Okay, I guess you could say the height of a wave during that stage of sleep. Okay, as you can see here, they justify it with the EEG scan. These sleep spindles jut up. This amplitude becomes higher in certain cases as we're entering a deeper sleep. We still have a high frequency, but this is entering into a deeper sleep as our heart rate is lowering, our blood pressure is lowering, and as we're getting more involved in that sleep state. Okay, sleep spindles, like I mentioned, is just the high, I guess you say, the higher amplitude of a wave as we're entering into a deeper sleep than what we see in NREM1. Okay, here's comparing NREM1, NREM2, and NREM3, and how these sleep spindles and the frequency and the amplitude changes through these stages. So the first time you enter the stage, NREM2, is about 20 minutes, And again, we kind of go through these different stages intermittently throughout the night. Okay, we might go into rapid eye movement for a short period of time, let's say later in the night, and we'll go and adjust through NREM2, 3, okay, and your book says 4 in some cases. as we adjust through those stages throughout the night, throughout different times, and how it can maybe be easily awakened in certain cases in certain moments. All right, so over the course of the night, you will spend half of your sleep in this stage. So you could be easily awakened. You're not as in a deep sleep as you go through the stages constantly throughout your sleep. All right, stage 3, NREM 3. Okay, I said it before. Your book says 4, but we're just going to go to 3. So about 30 minutes of sleep, your brain waves slow down a lot. Okay, the frequency is being lowered even more, and the amplitude is becoming a lot higher. So your brainwave cycles are less than 1 cycle per second compared to 15 cycles per second when you first fall asleep. So like I mentioned, the frequency is slowing down. You don't see as many waves occurring during this stage of sleep. Okay, the frequency lowers, but the amplitude raises as as we're entering into a stage 3. It's called delta sleep. Delta sleep. The waves are a lot higher. Okay, the amplitude's higher, but the frequency is lower. So the first time you are in the rejuvenation stages, it will last about 30 minutes. Just 30 minutes. That's it. We never really hit our deepest state, our deepest stage too often. And as we age, as we develop, okay, at a younger age, we actually reach delta stage a little bit more. Stage 3 a little bit more in our stages of sleep, in our time of sleep. As we grow older, through adolescence, we might not hit it near as much, and even more so when we grow to adulthood and to older age. Let's say when we're getting to our elder age, we won't see it as much. Stage 3, and stage 3 again, we are in our deepest sleep, and with stage 3, hormones are released. Okay, we see a lot of hormones release. We might not have the ability to control our bladder as well. And children of younger age, that happens quite a bit. And that's really a result of stage 3. Okay, it's harder to control our bowel movements. It's harder to control our hormones being released at that point when we're in stage 3. And that is our deepest sleep. Again, our book says 4, but I like to just talk about 3. And finally, REM sleep. Okay, REM sleep, rapid eye movement. Okay, and the other stages we talked about, it's non-rapid eye movement. That's why an N is in front of the REM. Okay, so stage 3, after we reach stage 3, okay, 1, 2, and 3, we move into REM sleep. And REM sleep is where most of the dreams occur that we remember vividly because we're almost in an awakened state. Our frequency is higher, our amplitude is lower. It's almost like we're just into stage 1. But again, that's kind of where we enter our dream state. And I'm sure you guys can recall waking up from a dream a lot of the time. Okay, and that's when we wake right out of REM sleep. Okay, because it's very similar to where stage 1 is, where we're almost in our awakened state, our conscious state. Okay, I'm sure we all had those dreams where we're falling off a cliff, or we wake up from a dream or a nightmare, let's say, and it's causing us to obviously think about what we just encountered in our dream state. Ever get those dreams before, Booker, where you're falling off a cliff and you wake up before you impact? Yeah. Campbell, I'm sure you had it too. Hannah, yeah. So again, that's when we're in our REM state. We have our sleep. We can really remember our dreams a little bit better during that stage because the frequency, the amplitude is very close to what stage 1 is when we are in our, I guess you could say, our most irritable stage of sleep. When we can wake up easily from something, let's say someone talking or a noise that allows us to wake. And stage 3, it's a little bit harder to wake through that deep sleep. My one friend in college, he used to have night terrors. I'll talk about that soon when we get to dreams. But his night terrors were really creepy. He'd wake up, like he'd kind of walk around the room and he'd be freaking out, screaming and yelling. And you try to stop him, you try to kind of hold him down and like, hey, you say, Josh, you're fine, you're fine. And he'd just go berserk. Like he just couldn't believe what was happening. The one time he woke up, he just like kind of jumped out of his bed. It was weird. He like jumped out of his bed and landed on the floor. And he goes, "Did you see that demon? He grabbed me underneath the bed and pulled me off the bed." I'm like, "No, no, dude, I didn't see that happen." But that's again ability, or not ability, but a repercussion, a problem with some of these people that go through these night terrors, and their REM sleep is a little bit more affected by this. It's scary. It's scary. It's literally like they're dying, and they go through these. Oh man, I couldn't imagine these terrible dreams. All right, so with REM sleep, sorry about that. We see our most rejuvenated stage as well. So, like if you're in exercise, working out, or memory as well, is increased during REM sleep. Okay, so we see more muscle growth. We see more ability to remember certain things through REM sleep. All right, so with that being said, REM sleep, reoccurring sleep stage during which vivid dreams commonly occur. Okay, so paradoxical sleep, muscles and body are relaxed and allows us to grow or allows us to rejuvenate after a long day, either with exercise or constant reading and challenging our mind. Okay, and the increased activity, I think that's pretty cool when we look at the kind of scans of the brain when we're going through these different stages. Through REM sleep, the brain is a little bit more active as we're dreaming, as we're maybe focusing and thinking about certain things. And through the other stages, not so much as we're in a deeper sleep. I think that's pretty interesting. All right, so stages of typical night's sleep. I think this is interesting. So younger adults, as we are awake, we go through REM, hit stage 3, and come bounce back up into REM. Not so much, right? We're not into REM as much, okay? As we're in REM sleep a little bit more as we're in younger adults. And older adults, we don't see it near as much. Okay, we're only entering REM sleep just a short period of time as we're going through the sleep stages. With younger adults, okay, again, we can remember our dreams a little bit more vividly, and we go through the stages of REM a little bit more, okay? So REM increases as the night progresses. So with younger adults, with children, we enter these sleep stages a little bit more, and when we dream and understand and remember our dreams a little bit more when we are older adults. And like I mentioned before, with infants, okay, when they're reaching that delta sleep, that REM3, they can't really control their valves as much. They can't really control, obviously, their hormone releases as well. So in younger adults, we have more hormone releases and reach stage 3 a little bit more. Does that make sense, guys? Okay. So typical night's sleep as we're going through REM, as we're going through stage 3. Okay, it just kind of shows again a different chart of people of different ages going through those different stages and how they might reach REM sleep a little bit more as a younger adult or when we're in our adolescence. All right, so again, kind of just building off that idea when we go through these stages, it's intermittent. It happens constantly throughout our sleep. And when we are at a younger age, an older age, okay, it's a little bit different when we enter REM sleep. Okay, again, infancy, we reach REM a little bit more. Okay, we're involved in REM sleep a little bit more as we have more vivid dreams. Okay, we reach a deeper sleep as we're younger. As we grow older, we don't reach stage 3 near as often. We don't have these dreams that we do remember. Okay, it's just a part of the stages and a part of our life and our development. All right, is there any questions on that? The stages. You guys good? All right, so I'm going to grade the activity from yesterday. That's really all I got for today. That's all I got. I just want to talk about the stages, kind of go over that a little bit more in depth from obviously the activity you went over. And if there's anything you need to fix from the activity, you can. I'm sure you don't have any questions about that. So, all right, that's all I got.